the term unbanked.
Yes.
Right? So the term unbanked is when a household no one in the household has a checking or a saving account at a bank or credit union. So they are not in any way involved in the financial services ecosystem. In the United States, about 4.2% of U.S. households are unbanked. In Detroit, 30% of adults are unbanked, meaning that if I was to line 3 Detroiters up, 1 out of those 3 does not have a checking or a savings account.
Yeah.
When you think about that term financial belonging or being a financial best friend in Detroit, with those statistics being true, how does that make you feel? And then what are the solves?
Yeah. It makes me really driven and determined to do what Orsa is intended to do and to lead in a way that begins with belonging. You know, belonging is our foundational value, and when we talk about it with our team, you know, anytime somebody begins at Orsa, and I speak to all of our team members as they start, and that conversation begins with our values. And belonging is that core value, because I think for most of us, when we go to work, whether we are working at home or we are working outside of our homes, we put on our work self. And that often means that we are subtracting some things from who we are. And if we're going to serve Detroiters, if we're going to serve Michiganders, if we're going to be a financial best friend, it's mandatory that every one of our team members brings everything they are to Orsa. And their unique perspectives, their differences, the way they see the world ensures that we can be the place where somebody has their first checking account that they can trust, and that our communities see themselves in Orsa. And so when we come into a neighborhood and we are starting fresh, we want to make sure that we're hiring people that they see themselves in. And it's so critical to who we are.
Welcome to Better Things, the podcast where Detroit's change makers and boldest voices come together for authentic conversations. We highlight people who are building businesses, shaping culture, and driving progress one neighborhood and one voice at a time. I'm Diallo Smith, the president and CEO of Life Remodel, and we're going to dive deep into the heart of the city to hear directly from those who are forecasting and shaping the future of our city. Today, I'm here with Tansley Stearns, president and CEO of OrsaCredit Union. Let's get to it. Tansley.
Diallo.
The Tansley Stearns.
The Diallo Smith.
President and CEO of OrsaCredit Union. And just so our viewers can know, Orsa manages close to $1.5 billion in assets, serves over 84,000 credit union members. In Michigan, 15, soon to be 16 branches.
Yes.
And close to 350 incredible team members.
Yes.
She is a proud graduate of the University of Michigan.
Go Blue.
And Tansley and her husband live in the Plymouth, Michigan area. Yeah. So I want to take you back, Tansley, to 2022, a few years ago. So you're in a credit union down in the Denver area. At the time, Orsa was called Community Financial Credit Union,
yes.
And you get the opportunity to interview for the CEO position there. You get the call saying that you got the job, and you are coming back to the Detroit metro area. What are you thinking?
I was over the moon, Diallo. This opportunity to lead a credit union is something I've been dreaming about since about 1998, which not only makes me a little old, it also makes me really just passionate about the opportunity that credit unions hold for human beings. And to be able to lead a credit union and to be able to do it in Michigan, in the Detroit metro area, just meant everything to me. You know, my dad grew up in Detroit. He used to drive me around, show me all the neighborhoods he lived in, and I just have such passion for the difference that a credit union can make. And I'm so excited about our next 75 years.
Right. Wow. 75 years.
Yes.
You're future forward.
Yes.
So you kind of teed up a question that I ask everybody who comes onto this show. What is your favorite Detroit neighborhood memory?
Oh, yes, driving with my father. My father is so proud of this city. He lives in Hillsdale, Michigan, and has since I was a baby. And if you ask him where he's from, he will say Detroit.
Nice.
And my grandmother, who he was very, very close to, and he describes as having saved his life, lived in Detroit. And she loved this city. And when we would come and visit her, we would always arrive very late. I'm not entirely sure why that was. And no matter what time we got there, we would go into her home and she would have beer in her basement fridge, and he would go down, and as soon as he would take a sip of that beer, he was a different man. And it wasn't because of the beer, it was because of Detroit and my grandma and just how this felt like home.
So you've been here about three to 4 years now.
It'll be 4 years
4 years
in
old.
June.
Back here
Yeah.
because you grew up in
I did.
Hillsdale.
I did.
Right, and so you had trips going back.
Yeah.
So what have you seen? You know, when you're away and come back, you can kind of look through it through different eyes. But in the past 3 to 5 years, there's been a lot of changes that's happened within the city of Detroit proper, but
Yes.
also in the region. So from your vantage point, what have you seen that you're really excited about that's happening in the area?
I'm so excited about the vibrancy of the city. And I think most importantly, what I feel in human beings, which is pride
Yeah.
and just the enthusiasm. We created this event called In the Cellar, and it's an opportunity to raise money on behalf of Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And we had the first event here in Detroit, and people from all over the country that are credit union leaders came. And to see their faces and the enthusiasm for how magical Detroit is, and you feel that with the people that live here every day. And I think that enthusiasm and passion drives positive change and impact and loyalty, which is going to continue to help this area thrive.
Detroit, stand up. That's what I always say.
Right.
So I wanna talk a little bit about the banking and credit union industry. So I think historically Detroit has been a very credit union friendly environment.
For sure.
But many people may not know the difference or what distinguishes, Orsa from Chase, from PNC, to Michigan Credit Union. What's the difference between a credit union and a bank?
I love that question. It's a common misconception, and I always love to begin with stories. One of our biggest challenges as a movement is that many people don't even know what a credit union is. We have a credit union service organization, which is an adjacent organization that is helping to share the story of credit unions. And I was on a trip to talk about this. It's called Backbone. And when I landed, another state, hop in an Uber, the Uber driver asked me what I'm there for, and I say I'm going to a credit union conference, and he asks, what? And I said, a credit union conference, and he asks, what's a credit union? So that gets to your question, and credit unions are financial cooperatives. We started during the Great Depression. Ed Feline and Roy Bergegren, the fathers of credit unions, had seen this model in other countries. And during the Great Depression saw that human beings didn't have a place that they could safely find a reasonably priced loan, and that they didn't have a place that they could trust to put their deposits. And it really is about human beings saying, gosh, I've got a little money I want to save, and you may need a little money. And so together we can do that. And that is what cooperatives are all about. And so the distinction is we are not-for-profit financial cooperatives.
Okay.
And what that means is that we are owned by our members. And so on a quarterly basis, we are not chasing shareholder value. Every day we bring shareholder value to our members who own us. And that model, that distinction, means that we are driven by member value and doing what's right on behalf of human beings.
It's interesting. Both on my side of the family and on my wife's side of the family, all of our parents have accounts
Yay.
at credit unions
Good.
of various kinds. And I think it's interesting just understanding their needs. They're older now. They're all seniors. But I'll make it a little bit contextual.
Sure.
Detroit is a vibrant city, like you said, very proud city, statistically and demographically. We are the largest city that has an African American population, or the largest African American population city within the United States, large city. But we're also the poorest city. And there has historically been a level of distrust that has existed within African American communities with financial institutions for various reasons. And now is not the time to go into the details of it, but even going back to after the Civil War, during Reconstruction, the Freedmen's Bank was founded with an idea that those that were enslaved, who are now free, could be a part of the financial ecosystem, and then that bank collapsed. Right? And I think about my great grandfather who was freed and was an entrepreneur and put his money into Freedmen's Bank and lost all of his money, and how far that set us back as a family generationally. So there's that level of mistrust there, and I'm wondering, as you're seeing the landscape within the metro areas, but specifically with regards to the African American community, what role specifically can credit unions play in building that trust, or is there one?
Absolutely. And Diallo, I love the question, because I think that credit unions are built to grow trust. And I believe that starts at Orsa with listening. We talk about listening as a superpower. One of the challenges I think that all financial institutions have is that money is complicated. If you talk to people, everyday people, about money, you'll hear shame, you'll hear confusion, you'll see body language that shrinks. And if you really dive into those conversations, it is generational. You'll talk to parents about how they talk about money with their kids, and you'll hear things like, I don't, because my parents didn't and I wouldn't know what to say. Or you'll hear the overreaction of, well, I make my kid watch as I write checks every month because I want them to know. And I think the way that we build trust is listening, understanding those stories, and building unique solutions, having heard those biggest challenges. We don't know better. We might be subject matter experts, and we can marry that subject matter expertise with that listening. And I believe when we do that, and then we come back and say, we built this for you because we heard you, that builds trust.
So there's two kind of big things that, as I was reading about what's been happening at Orsa over the last year and a half. So I'll start with the most recent. You guys had a big change, like a name change, a historic change. So tell us a little bit about that name change and why.
Well, I mentioned earlier that credit unions have a storytelling challenge. We haven't done a great job of it. And that's rooted in our history. I'll tell you about my first credit union I ever worked at. It was founded for Macy's employees. The headquarters was in the basement of a Macy's store. And the business model was that if you started working at Macy's, the person in HR would say, hey, do you want to get paid? I'm going to walk you over to the credit union. And you open your account and you'll get direct deposit. You don't have to be great at storytelling and marketing when that's your business model. Well, the world has changed an awful lot. And naming an organization may sound mundane or like it doesn't matter very much. I can tell you, I've had a lot of conversations like this in the last 4 years. It was really unusual that the person I was speaking with would say our name correctly. And there are lots of other organizations that start with community or have the initials CFCU. And I actually had an executive that joined our team. This person was super excited, told his parents about it, and the parents joined the wrong credit union. Now, I'll always root for other credit unions.
I'm thinking like, community.
Yes.
That probably is 1,000 derivatives of that name across the nation. So you get to Orsa, and so is there like a hidden meaning behind the name?
It's not hidden.
Okay.
It stands for Mother Bear. And,
Mother Bear.
And we have iconography in our brand.
Are you a mother bear?
I absolutely am.
So it's named after Tansley, but no, go ahead.
No way, no way. We did a lot of listening. In fact, we worked really hard with our community, with our members, with our board, with our team to understand what did we want the name to represent?
Yeah.
What did we want it to feel like? What did we want people to feel when they said it? It has to be simple. It has to come out of your mouth easily. It has to be something you'll remember. And it's also as much a legal exercise as it is a creative exercise because you have to own a name and you don't want confusion around that. And you certainly don't want to change your name and then have to change it back. So Orsa was really clean. It's powerful too. And it's been fun for me to see our team, our board, and our members start to fall in love with it. You know, and you'll get haters. And I told our team from the beginning, a good brand will have haters.
Ooh, say that one more time.
Yes, a good brand will have haters. And when they're talking about it, we're winning.
So having been to some of the branches, so for me, it's not just the name, even though the name stands out.
Yeah.
The colors, the vibe, it feels like a party.
Yes.
When we go into there, and I've heard you use this term before, and I want to parlay this into my second announcement about you guys. But you talk about this idea of financial belonging. The second big announcement, aside from the name change, happened last year, and that was the opening of Orsa's first branch in the city of Detroit.
Yay.
And I can remember being there, and then Mayor Duggan, he said something that I thought was profound. He said that for years, for decades, the trend was for Detroit-based businesses to relocate or expand to the suburbs because that's where all the activity, financial activity was happening, perceivably.
Yeah.
But he said that this really denotes something different happening. You have a suburb-based, Plymouth-based company that's now expanding into the city of Detroit. So I want to just take you back to, was that June of last year, the opening? What was that like for you to be able to open your first branch right in Detroit, right in the heart of the Rosedale neighborhood?
It was one of those moments that will define my career, and not about me, about how this organization represents the potential of credit unions. And I will tell you, when Mayor Duggan spoke and said the words you just articulated, I rarely cry. My first boss used to say, "No crying in credit unions." And I was real close that day because this is why we exist. You know, showing up at Grand River and Losser means we're in a neighborhood, and a neighborhood that needs human beings to walk with them and listen and understand the needs and grow into those needs together. You know, one of the things that connects to the brand story is our bear, who we call Daisy. Her nose,
Daisy the bear.
That's right. Her nose is yellow, and that's very purposeful because Daisy isn't walking ahead of our members. Daisy isn't shaking her finger at our members. Daisy is walking alongside our members to understand those deepest needs in the darkest and most joyful moments. You know, when you think about our human lives, all of us have these things that, in the story of most financial institutions, you picture a couple running on the beach into their retirement, right? And we want to be there for that. That's awesome. Those joyful moments mean everything. And the darker moments, right? Death, divorce, losing someone that you love. All of these moments have foundational elements that are about our finances. And if we can be that financial best friend in the dark and joyful moments in a neighborhood where we can build trust, that's the reason we exist.
So you talked about being a financial best friend and the term financial belonging, and I just and opening the first bank or first branch in Detroit. I want to share with you some statistics, and then just want to hear your thoughts. So the term, I wasn't as familiar with this term until recently, and I heard it and I researched it. The term unbanked.
Yes.
Right. So the term unbanked is when a household no one in the household has a checking or a saving account at a bank or credit union. So they are not in any way involved in the financial services ecosystem. in the United States, about 4.2% of U.S. households are unbanked. In Detroit, 30% of adults are unbanked, meaning that if I was to line 3 Detroiters up, 1 out of those 3 does not have a checking or a savings account. Yeah. When you think about that term financial belonging or being a financial best friend in Detroit, with those statistics being true, how does that make you feel? And then what are the solves?
Yeah. It makes me really driven and determined to do what Orsa is intended to do and to lead in a way that begins with belonging. You know, belonging is our foundational value, and when we talk about it with our team, you know, anytime somebody begins at Orsa, and I speak to all of our team members as they start, and that conversation begins with our values. And belonging is that core value, because I think for most of us, when we go to work, whether we are working at home or we are working outside of our homes, we put on our work self. And that often means that we are subtracting some things from who we are. And if we're going to serve Detroiters, if we're going to serve Michiganders, if we're going to be a financial best friend, it's mandatory that every one of our team members brings everything they are to Orsa. And their unique perspectives, their differences, the way they see the world ensures that we can be the place where somebody has their first checking account that they can trust, and that our communities see themselves in Orsa. And so when we come into a neighborhood and we are starting fresh, we want to make sure that we're hiring people that they see themselves in, and it's so critical to who we are.
It's interesting because I read the statistics, but having been a native Detroiter and seen some of the changes that's happened within neighborhoods, one of the things that I've seen happen almost in an instant was the closure of many branches within the city, right? And without calling out names of different financial institutions, I think it was a bottom line decision. But the trigger that gets sent to those residents is that, oh, my money isn't worth you staying in my neighborhood. And so I credit you, and I credit your leaders at Orsa for making an intentional decision to say, no, we do want to create a sense of financial belonging. And one of the ways that we can do that is to have actual physical presence.
Agreed.
So people, because listen, money is a relationship for people, right?
No
and so I know we're transitioning to an era where fintech is becoming a more dominant means of moving our money. But for many people, they want to talk to the teller.
And Diallo, it's so interesting that you say that, because this is a debate that happens in financial services all the time about whether or not the branch is dying. And extremes are the enemy of the answer. It is not that either we have branches or we have technology. Yes and yes.
Yeah.
And branches are a trust indicator. Just what you're saying, when someone sees, oh, there's a physical location, even if they don't come every day, they know they can.
Yeah.
And they know that we are there. And that is a grounding trust. And so that physical manifestation of our commitment to the city of Detroit means everything.
Financial literacy. So that's kind of another big buzzword that we've heard. The governor last year created a mandate that our K-12 institutions include some level of financial literacy before graduation. And so corresponding with that is this shocking reality or shocking statistic that while Black Americans make up 40% of the population, we only hold 3 to 5% of the nation's wealth, right? And so there's disproportionality between demographically the population that we represent and our capacity to accumulate wealth, which I believe is directly related to financial literacy. So I know you guys are doing some incredible things with financial literacy, and I want you to talk about some of those things. I think some of those things are actually pretty cool. You guys have kind of stepped into the to the digital end. But I did want to ask for our viewers, for someone who has been in the space that you've been for so long, who have talked with members for years and years and years, who has had to give advice. What would you say are the top 3 things that someone who is looking to build wealth can do and should do starting now?
Join a credit union. I'd hope it's Orsa, and pick one. Join a credit union.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, well, we are built for human beings and their financial future. So join a credit union.
Okay.
Start early. Compound interest is a gift, and the gift of time is powerful.
Break that down for me.
So if you look at the data about what happens for savers, if you start very early in your life, time's on your side and it compounds. And that compounding means you are paying yourself more. So start early. And even if it's tiny, one of the things I love that we do is we have this 52-week savings challenge. And you could start with as little as 10 cents.
A week.
Yeah, that's right. Just start. And it's amazing what happens. That habit of savings is just like every other habit we have. And it's really easy to get in that habit and use financial tools to just make sure it's happening and you're not even paying attention to it. So join a credit union, start early, and always enjoy your money. Whatever you have, I liken it to weight loss. Anytime we're too restrictive with anything, we can't stick to it as humans. We have to have some joy in our lives. And I think one of the things that we often miss when we talk about financial literacy is it's all about discipline and save more, don't spend any money. That is a recipe for never getting anywhere. And so we talk about save, spend, give, and those are the foundations of your financial future. You got to spend. And talk with people you love about what you enjoy spending on.
Now, see, I'm going to edit that out because I don't know if I don't know if I want my wife to hear that part of it. But no, I get that, right?
Right?
You have to be able to enjoy.
That's right.
The process.
Yes.
Right. If it's too restrictive, then it feels
you won't stick with
daunting
it.
and just impossible.
That's right. That's right.
I love that. And so as we kind of wrap up here, when you're thinking about Orsa in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see the credit union going? I do want you to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing in the digital domain, and what gives you the biggest smile on your face when you're thinking about the future 3 to 5 years out?
Yeah. What I get really excited about is I can see a time where I'm hopping in an Uber, and when I say I'm going to a credit union conference and that person says, I love my credit union. And I know that we're going to get there. Yeah. And I think specifically around Orsa, to your point, the other brand challenge that credit unions often have is that we are considered that place that's not very technologically advanced, that is really nice and yet couldn't meet all my needs. And so one of the things you've been hinting at that we're really proud of is we are the first financial institution on Roblox.
What?
Yes. We have over 50 student-run credit unions across the state of Michigan. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited to come to Orsa 4 years ago. And we were, to your question about financial literacy, really approaching that in a way that was very 1989. And in fact, my daughter started her middle school career here in Michigan when we moved back, and we were in one of her schools, and I asked her what the experience was like, and her answer to me was to put her head down. Wow. And so we have to, again, walk alongside people. And what I will tell you, Diallo, about Roblox is when my daughter played our game in Roblox, I didn't understand anything about it.
By the way, for those who were born after, when you said, explain Roblox in what is it? How does it work?
Yes. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, Diallo. I can't explain Roblox because I'm about to turn 50 in September. And when I watch my daughter play it, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. What I see her doing is she has a character. That character runs around in our branch. She picks up some trash. She throws away the trash. She gets a little money for doing that.
A digital branch.
Yes, it's a digital branch. It looks just like our Detroit branch. It's awesome.
Yeah.
She ran a car into our Detroit branch on Roblox.
Did she get points for that?
No, thank goodness.
Good.
And my point is, the fact that I don't understand it tells me we're doing exactly the right thing. Because what we want is we want students and young people to be engaged and to be excited and to say, OrsaCredit Union's on Roblox, and I learned a little something about how a financial institution works.
So they can build their character. They can go to the bank just like they would in a real life situation.
They can go to the vault. They can be a teller. Yes. Now our vault on Roblox has a throne, so it's a little different.
Okay.
And I just love that we're testing and trying things. And Diallo, just this week, I asked her to test again, and she had 5 ideas about how we make it better.
Nice.
And we're going to have a group of young people giving us more ideas.
Yeah.
Whether Roblox is the future or not, what I know is that these tests and these opportunities to be in community where people need us most, whether that's at Grand River and Lasser or on Roblox or in Gaylord, Michigan, the way that we are listening and applying that listening is going to change the world.
So we have a beginning question that we ask everybody and then an ending question.
Sure.
So Better Things is a derivative of the Detroit City flag, in which the Latin inscription says, "We hope for better things." What is one better thing that you're hoping for the city of Detroit?
I am hoping that Detroiters feel trust in a credit union like Orsa, and that is foundational for their financial future to be even brighter.
Tansley Stearns, it's been a pleasure.
It's an honor, Diallo. Thank you.
Join us for future episodes of Better Things as we continue to have conversations with key voices across the city of Detroit. If you want to learn more about Life Remodeled's mission, please go to liferemodeled.org. We'll see you guys next time.